In Ecuador, social movements continue with the national strike called by CONAI after the government withdrew from the dialogue table. Venezuela's government maintains tropical cyclone alert on its coast even while the storm decreased in strength in the last few hours. NATO clears the way for Sweden and Finland to join the military alliance and increases its rapid response force to 300,000 troops. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Ecuador, the national strike called by the Confederations of Indigenous Nationalities continues after the government abandoned the dialogue table. Social and human rights organizations have denounced repression by riot police units of the National Police against demonstrators and residents of a popular neighborhood located in Quito while they attacked with tear gas bombs the campus of the University of Cuenca. The events took place within the framework of the announcement of President Guillermo Lasso to suspend the dialogues and to ignore the indigenous leaders. Meanwhile, Leonidas Issa, president of CONAI, questioned the decision of the executive and urged to guarantee peace and the non-militarization of the reception places. Ecuador's National Assembly failed to get the votes needed to pass the impeachment motion against President Guillermo Lasso. With 84 affirmative votes, 42 negative votes, and 11 abstentions, the parliament rejected the so-called cross-death mechanism. Such process needed 92 votes, which represents the qualified majority of parliament. Among those who voted in favor of the removal of the president is the National Assembly, Virgilio Saquicela. After more than 18 hours of debate in 3 days, the assembly closed the discussion on the death cross issue promoted by the parliamentarian of the Union of Hope, following the political and social crisis that the country is experiencing. Members and neighbors of the Colombian municipality of Tuluá paid tribute to the victims of a fire that occurred on Tuesday inside a prison in that city, which left at least 52 dead and 26 wounded. The tragedy occurred when rioting inmates started a fire around 2 a.m. local time, trying to prevent police from entering their compound in the prison at Valle del Cauca in the Tuluá department. Authorities had initially said that they were investigating whether the incident occurred as part of an escape attempt, but later said that it was a riot. In Chile, the plenary of the Constitutional Convention approved this Tuesday the final text of the new Constitution of the Republic after the closing of the last round of voting. After a year of work, the Convention will deliver the draft of the Magna Carta to President Gabriel Boric on the 4th of July, while on September 4th the text will be submitted to a plebiscite with mandatory voting. The decision to draft the new Constitution arose in 2019 as a response to the demand for social justice from protests over October that year. The new constitution will replace the one approved in 1980 during the dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet, which, according to social organizations, laid the foundations for the neoliberal system and the resulting inequalities that affected the Chilean people for decades.
We succeeded, first of all, despite all the difficulties we have suffered, the different obstacles we have had during this year. We have finally closed this part of the work. I congratulate you because after this arduous year with difficulties, with very long debates, but also with many days of great satisfaction.
As the conflict between Russia and Ukraine drags on, fertilizer prices have been rising, which has put a lot of pressure on Brazilian farmers. The South American country is one of the biggest importers of fertilizer globally, so such a price hike has seriously impacted its agricultural production. With the rise in fertilizer prices, biofertilizer is becoming increasingly popular among local farmers, although the Brazilian government has repeatedly stressed that the country's fertilizer storage will satisfy the demand for next sowing season. However, the rising prices as well as other factors such as soaring fuel price and extreme weather are still likely to put more burden on Brazilian farmers.
We now use about 15 to 20 kinds of fertilizers. All their prices are going up. The fertilizer problem cannot be solved overnight. It will take many years. Globally, the output of such products may not be able to significantly increase within several years.
Petrocaribe celebrates 17 years since its creation, representing integration mechanisms that promote regional socio-economic development. The initiative was promoted by Venezuela by then-President Hugo Chavez within the framework of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our Americas People's Trade Agreement, consolidating a scheme of equitable exchange among the Caribbean nations. Through the joint ventures, it is intended to strengthen the technical and technological capacities of the member countries and advance in the development of projects that allow the efficient use and management of the available energy resources. Despite of the pressure from the U.S., Petrocaribe continues with a strategic priority based on the principles of solidarity, cooperation, and sovereignty. We are taking a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. In Venezuela, authorities maintain alert and prevention before the passage of the potential tropical cyclone that decreased its intensity. In view of the passage of Cyclone Bonnie along the Venezuelan coast, authorities continue the alert and maintain cleaning and prevention activities at national level. According to the National Institute of Meteorology and Hydrology, the cyclone, located about 100 kilometers from the state of La Guaira, weakened in the morning. Due to its displacement speed 45 and 48 kilometers per hour, it has not developed completely. Consequently, rains in the central western region are expected, and also that the hurricane will reach the Paraguana Peninsula in the state of Falcón in the afternoon. The worst drought Italy has faced in 70 years is drying out the rice paddies of the river's Po Valley, jeopardizing the precious harvest of the Italian premium rice used for the tasty risotto. Po, Italy's largest river, is turning into a long stretch of sand due to the lack of rain, leaving the Lomellina rice flats without the water necessary to flood the paddies. Nestled between the Po River and the Alps, Lomellina farmers have been producing arboreal rice for centuries. The white grains of this local variety are perfect for absorbing the flavor of risotto soups. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, drought stress is the most severe damaging factor for rice, especially in the early stages of its growth, and the heat wave, like those that are repeatedly hitting Italy, which peaks of 40 degrees Celsius, can significantly reduce the yield of the surviving rice. EU countries on Wednesday reached a deal backing stricter emission rules that would eliminate carbon emissions from new cars by 2035. The 27 EU members found a common agreement on draft legislation aimed at cutting the bloc greenhouse gases by at least 55% in 2030, compared with 1990 rather than by a previously agreed 40%. The European Commission Vice President in charge of the Green Deal said it was up to car manufacturers to deliver on emissions limits. The decision to introduce a 100% CO2 emission reduction target by 2035 for new cars and vans will effectively prohibit the sale in the 27-nation bloc of new cars powered by gasoline or diesel. In addition to the landmark agreement, the package also featured a reform of the EU's carbon market and the creation of a social climate fund to help vulnerable households cope with the planned clean energy renovation. The leaders of the 5 states bordering the Caspian meet in Turkmenistan's capital Ashgabat for the 6th Caspian Summit. Established by Iran, Russia, Turkmenistan, and Azerbaijan, the summit is a platform to discuss the utilization and development of Caspian Sea resources. As part of the Caspian Summit, the participating countries agreed that military forces of other states may not enter the Caspian Sea. In this regard, the leaders spoke in favor of an agreement that includes confidence-building measures on military activities and establishes the rules governing regional cooperation in this field. During his speech at the summit, Russian President Vladimir Putin called for the promotion of political, trade, energy, transport, and security cooperation. In Spain, the NATO summit paves the way for Sweden and Finland to join the organization while announcing the increase of NATO's response force up to 300,000 troops. During the meeting, members of the military alliance discussed the possible addition of Sweden and Finland to the organization after the agreement of these countries with the Turkish government, who requested the extradition of 33 people deemed terrorists in order to lift their veto to join NATO. Likewise, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg assured that NATO plans to reinforce the capacity of its forces on the eastern flank in 2023, in reference to the bloc's member countries bordering Russia. Stoltenberg announced that NATO plans to increase NATO's response force from 40,000 to 300,000 troops as a means of deterring Russia after changing its status from friendly to potential enemy.
I expect that when leaders agree the strategic concept, they will state clearly that Russia poses a direct threat to our security, and of course that will be reflected throughout the strategic concept.
More than a day after the discovery of 51 dead people inside a truck trailer in San Antonio in the United States, few identities of the victims have been made public, illustrating the challenges authorities face in tracing people who cross borders clandestinely. By Tuesday afternoon, medical examiners had identified 34 of the victims. Those identities were not yet confirmed pending additional steps, such as fingerprints. But according to Bexar County Commissioner Rebecca Clay Flores, the process is a challenge with no timeline on when it might be finished. Among the dead, 27 are believed to be Mexican, based on documents they were carrying. Mexican Consul General in San Antonio, Ruben Minuti, said that several survivors were in critical condition with injuries such as brain damage and internal bleeding.
The number of deceased at the moment is 51, of which there is information that has just been updated where the Mexico Forensic Doctor's Office reports that 27 of the deceased persons will presumably be of Mexican nationality, because they were linked to some identity document, and what they indicate to us is that we will try to corroborate with fingerprints.
In the United States, a key witness testified that former President Donald Trump knew his supporters were armed and still instigated them to march on January 6, 2021. Cassidy Hutchinson, an aide to then Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, testified before the lower house committee investigating the assault on the Capitol. According to the former official, Trump knew that his supporters prior to the attack were armed and reportedly said, "I don't care if they have guns, they are not here to hurt me, remove the detectors." The violence unleashed that day left 5 dead and more than 140 police officers wounded.
I was in the vicinity of a conversation where I overheard the president say something to the effect of, I don't effing care that they have weapons. They're not here to hurt me. Take the effing mags away. Let my people in. They can march to the Capitol from here. Let the people in. Take the effing mags away.
Russia assured that it will continue with the special military operation in Ukraine until the are eliminated or the Ukrainian nationalists are demilitarized. The information was confirmed by the Russian deputy ambassador to the UN, Dmitry Polyansky, who pointed out that the operation was launched in order to stop Kiev's bombings against the territories of Donbass and to reduce the threats of the nationalist regime to Russia and to the civilian population of the south and southeast of Ukraine. The deputy detailed that Ukraine has turned into an anti-Russian state with the help of several Western states. The Kremlin launched the military mission on February 24th in response to requests for assistance to the republics of Donetsk and Lugansk to defend their population. More news coming up after the final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Israeli troops shot and killed a Palestinian man on Wednesday during clashes in the town of Jenin in the occupied West Bank. The Palestinian Health Ministry said Mohammad Marei died from a bullet wound to the chest during an Israeli raid in the town. The head of the Khalil Suleiman Governmental Hospital, Wissam Baker, confirmed that Marei was brought in after being shot in the chest. Baker also stated that the bullet pierced Marei's heart and that efforts to resuscitate him were unsuccessful. The Israeli army conducts raid and arrest operations on a near-daily basis in the occupied West Bank, which often result in injuries or killings of Palestinians. In South Africa, the state power utility implemented on Tuesday stage 6 load shedding to cut electricity in most parts of the country. It is the most severe power outage in the country since 2019, when the state-owned company Eskom implemented the stage 6 load shedding for the first time in December. This measure will be repeated on Wednesday evening due to widespread disruptions at power plants caused by workers' actions. Sudden breakdowns of 10 generation units also resulted in the implementation of the stage 6 load shedding. Eskom's rejection of a 10% wage increase has led to strikes and road blockades, leading to some power plants. The people of the Democratic Republic of the Congo began the ceremony to pay homage to former Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba, assassinated in 1961 by the colonialist regime of Belgium. The activities are carried out after his relative finally received last June 22nd the remains of the man who is considered a national hero. Our correspondent in Africa, Oscar Epelde, with the following report.
Patrice Lumumba's biological family has fought 20 years in court to learn the truth. Francois was 9 years old when he was last separated from him.
He made us escape to Egypt because he didn't want us to be killed with him.
Patrice Lumumba's remains have been repatriated almost 62 years later, thanks to the family's fight. For the first time, the family had the support of a head of state who needs to broaden his electoral base and is counting on all the resources of the state.
We are happy, but we will be happier when Lumumba's political program is put into practice. We have no spirit of revenge. We only want the truth and nothing but the truth.
The values embodied by Patrice Lumumba in 1960 were brutally wrested from the Congolese people to subject them to a new domination after independence. The spirit of André Blouin, Patrice Lumumba's chief of protocol, who influenced his famous speech of June 1960, lives on in the reflection of today's youth in places like this André Blouin Cultural Center in Kintambo Magazine.
I would ask not only that they bring the remains of the body that they have already brought, but also that they ask for forgiveness, that Belgium ask for forgiveness, and that after that there be reparations. And then we will discover the real story. Why was Patrice killed? They killed him because he had the vision of a better Congo, of a giant Congo, united and in peace.
At this cultural center, they maintain that economic domination continues to exist through a political class that should be inspired by the figure of Patrice Lumumba and not be content with personal wealth, but aspire to the common good with solidarity as a weapon to build an independent nation and a good life. Since the war in Ukraine, bread from this large factory in Kinshasa, for example, has become almost twice as expensive. The increase in the price of basic necessities makes life more expensive. And why? They seek the truth in order to do what Patrice Lumumba used to say, to rewrite history and to strengthen themselves until they become indestructible, despite the manipulations that for decades have imposed wars and governments in the service of a system of resource extraction that ignored Congolese sovereignty.
Desde Kinshasa, Oscar Epelde para TeleSUR.
Off the coast of Senegal, a boat carrying more than 100 migrants caught fire, causing the death of 14 people. The tragedy occurred off the town of Kafountine. According to the investigations, the accident was caused by the carelessness of a smoker in the area where the ship's fuel was being stored. So far, the Senegalese Coast Guard has rescued more than 90 people from the waters of the Atlantic Ocean. Some of them were transported to hospitals to treat burns suffered in the catastrophe. In this regard, authorities assured that they will open an investigation to find out the identity of the organizers of the trip, who were transporting African immigrants and also from other parts of the world to European coasts. According to the Center for Systems Science and Engineering at Johns Hopkins University, the United States has recorded more than 87 million confirmed COVID-19 cases nationwide, with more than 1 million deaths as of early Wednesday. In the meantime, the U.S. Academy of Pediatrics and the Children's Hospital Association released a report showing that pediatric COVID-19 cases have skyrocketed in the country in the past weeks. According to the report, some 326,000 COVID-19 cases have been recorded in children in the past 4 weeks, bringing the total of pediatric coronavirus cases in the U.S. to more than 13.6 million since the beginning of the pandemic. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommended children 6 months and older should be given a COVID-19 vaccine, meaning that some 20 million children in the country would acquire vaccine protection. And we have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.